there's a whole other side. When we lose someone, because a lot of addiction is just understanding loss and your relationship with loss and grieving. So someone creating a business and offering to clone, a lot of that is part of the problem, is that's consumerism and capitalism at its finest.
Side note, we have a question. What do you by Signs by Stu? What do you think about AI replacing or creating an alternate life for someone? I have seen some businesses offer to clone or make an AI chatbot of a deceased loved one or a girlfriend lover.
I'd
That's
say there's
deep.
definitely an
That's a
intervention
very
of
deep
grief.
question.
But I would say, I mean, to each his own. I'm not one to tell a person how to live their life, but I am going to teach you like the perspective, which is why my business is perspective counseling. There's a whole other side. When we lose someone, because a lot of addiction is just understanding loss and your relationship with loss and grieving. That is a lot of the trauma work that I do. And so someone creating a business and offering to clone, a lot of that is part of the problem, is that's consumerism and capitalism at its finest. That's a little opinionated, but is that someone is trying to capitalize off of your suffering.
Yeah,
Right.
I definitely see that. And then I'm wondering how would that impact the ability of someone learning how to let go? You know what I'm saying? Because then, like, I felt like you're kind of enabling you not being able to let go. You get what I'm saying? Because then how can someone move on with their life? That's the tricky one.
Well, that's the thing, is they're living in the reality where their life doesn't necessarily have to go anywhere. And this is kind of it's not the same discussion, but very close to, I think, just the conversation about like video games and like I can't even say AI, but like just that, people who stay inside a lot and play video games. That social engagement is, there's I mean this with the utmost hopefulness for anyone who's one, but not everyone is going to change. And you have to make that choice to be able to say, hey, I'm not going to delay living my life, that if this person is really gone, and I will but you don't even need AI to do this, but if they got an actual clone, I think they did a Black Mirror episode on this as well, is that
They did on Law and Order. I know for sure.
So you're creating your own reality, but you're also using something outside of yourself, where we already create our own reality. That is mental health a lot of the time. So if to me, this can turn opinionated very quickly, which is that I'm not a therapist in this. Okay. I am a therapist, but I'm not responding as a therapist.
That's why it's called Technically Speaking.
There you go.
Like you're overcompensating. You are using more energy, more money, more time in resisting the process of grieving and healing by attaching to an inanimate object.
Right. Is that the same as like kind of self-medicating, like how sometimes people would deal with certain issues by maybe too much alcohol, recreational drugs?
There's people, I can't say my own clients, but I've heard of like my other colleagues' clients that, they keep shrines to loved ones. Now there's a fine line between, what holding on and in an unhealthy way is to like a natural process of grieving. You're allowed to have mementos, you're allowed to have things, but you really got to look at like, okay, what is your life? How is development going? If you are not, like mentally and emotionally growing past this, then it's going to have consequence in your life. You're going to start seeing consequences in your finances, in your social, in your familial world. And that's what really starts to create the mental health issues that we have just systemically in this type of situation.
Hey, that was a good question, Stu. By the way, Stu, he's our next guest. So for next week. So thanks for showing that love. That's what's up. That was a really good question. You know what? So I want to add to that, right? So I follow Darren Hardy. Been following Darren Hardy for a long time for personal development and growth. And he just recently put out a program where he reintroduced a program I took a long time ago called Insanity, which teaches you basically how to focus and get stuff done and be more productive, right? But he's introducing in this next round of the training where he trained the model on the lesson to where it can essentially kind of augment him, right? Like it's an augmented instructor that's been trained on the whole curriculum that when he broke it down, you can essentially interact with that AI bot, basically his clone, right? In place of actually dealing with him. What do you think about, you know, using kind of what Stu talked about, but in that scenario, more in a business class environment?
Yeah, no, that was a great question by Stu as well. And that's the other side of where this can actually be helpful. And we had talked about this in our first discussion, Geronimo, of like where someone cloning myself in some regard can help access. There's a huge backlog with therapist availability. And not that I'm supposed to be everyone's therapist, but, you know, I'm pretty cool or relatable. But, I'm good at what I do, you know, but I'm not for everyone. My person, there has to be that sit there, but a clone in that regard can help immensely. Where I do know, I can't remember, I still have not looked up the actual agency, but I was at a networking event and I met someone, an agency that was started using AI to help with social exposure training. So having a, I wouldn't necessarily say a clone, but what's the Sims, like, what's that term?
Like a simulator?
Virtual, yes.
Simulator.
Thank you, the Sims.
I like digital phones.
But a virtual reality that you're talking with another person, but you're also practicing exposure therapy and helping overcome trauma. This is probably being mostly researched too with veterans as well, and trying to treat PTSD as well in combination with medication therapy, while also doing a behavioral therapy as well. And just for good measure, I'm just going to put out there that medication therapy is very different than regular therapy, and they're designed to work together,
right?
Not just separately.